Hello, I'm Miss Ashley from Febo Kids Art Academy, and welcome to another amazing art class. For our princess project today, we are going to be drawing Princess Belle from Beauty and the Beast. For a list of supplies, check in the description of this video. Let's go ahead and get started. So here we have Princess Belle, who we're going to be drawing today. So let's go ahead and get started with our practice draw. I would like for you to use that pencil, but I'll be using a Sharpie so you can see my lines. Make sure that your paper is vertical, which means top to bottom. And the first thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be drawing her forehead and cheek. So we're going to draw a curve for that forehead, and then another curve that goes in for her cheek to her chin. I want you to find roughly the middle of that area, and you're going to draw a circle. Then you'll draw the rest of her head by drawing her jaw to her chin. Now make sure her face is just a little bit longer, not too much though. Now we're going to draw her hair. We're going to start in the middle of her head by curving up, making sure that it meets to the top of the forehead, and continue that curve. Then you're going to go underneath, curve, and curve again. So that is part of her bang that is pushed back. Now we need to go back to that middle, curve up, and down to the earring, and up. Come back here, curve up, and down, up, and one more time, curve up, down, up, and make sure to draw a slightly curved line to connect. Now we need to draw the top of her head by drawing 1, 2 curves, or you could just draw a circle, a rainbow curve, curve on the right, and a big curve on the left, because part of her hair is pulled up into a bun at the top. Before we draw the rest of her hair, let's go ahead and draw that neck by curving down and curving down. Make sure this curve is just a little bit longer, because for this one we need to curve up to her shoulder and curve slightly for that shoulder, but make sure you don't go all the way to the bottom of the paper, because we do need to add part of her dress by curving down and back up, because her dress comes to her shoulders. Now we can finish that hair by curving down and curving again. Then we'll go to the middle of her cheek here and curve down. So this is her cheek, and this is actually her jawbone. And I'm just going to add one more curve. All right, so now that we have Belle's outline drawn, let's go ahead and start on her face. We're going to draw this rainbow curve, and then curve that goes into a circle, curve, go down, and curve. Backward C, backward C, small circles on the left side, because that's the highlight, and then a circle behind that highlight, because that is going to be the pupil. We'll add those eyelids and eyelashes in our final draw, but for those eyebrows, I recommend drawing that straight line and curve and curve. Make sure that the eyebrow that's closer to the bridge of the nose is just a little bit thicker. And same with the right side by drawing that straight line, curve, and curve. Now, since her head is turned sideways, you do see a little bit of the bridge of that nose, but make sure to not emphasize it too much. All you do is do a curve, small nostril. Now for her lips, because once again she is in side view, that part of the lip is slanted. So we'll draw a slanted line there so we know. Up, down, curve, and curve down to meet at the bottom of that slanted line. And then you'll draw another curve to draw that bottom lip. Now if you're still working on Belle, no worries, you can always press pause on that video, but we are going to go ahead and move on to our final draw. And make sure as you are drawing your picture on your nice piece of paper that you do use a pencil. All right, make sure your paper is also vertical. We're going to draw that forehead by drawing a curve, and remember I'm using a Sharpie so you can see my lines. Curve the cheek, that goes to the jaw. We'll draw her earring, and it's similar in the sense that her earring kind of just becomes her ear because her hair does block part of her ear. I'm going to draw that jaw by going down. All right, let's start on that hair. Find the middle of her head, curve, and then curve, and curve again. So there's part of her hair. Now for the left side, we're going to go back to the middle of her head, curve up, down to the earring, and back up. So it's almost like kind of this wonky letter J. We're going to draw that wonky letter J again by going down and connecting. And then one more time, up, down, up. Only this time you do need to draw a slight curve for the rest of her bangs. Now for the top of the hair, curve and curve. And a rainbow curve for that hair wrap. What would you call it? It's not quite an elastic, but it does keep her bun in place. And I just drew a curved line and another curved line. If you have enough room on your paper, you could easily just draw an oval for that bun. And then I'm going to go ahead and just draw this line for the back of her hair. Now for that neck, we're going to start not quite in the middle. This is the middle of her jaw. We're going to go up just a little bit. Curve and bring it up for her shoulder. Bring that curve down and up for her shoulder, but make sure to leave yourself enough space there for her dress. So the sleeves that go down her shoulders. And curve down. All right. I'm going to add some more strands of hair and finish off her hair by bringing this curve down and drawing a letter J. Curve down to her shoulder and add another curve to the shoulder. And I like to add a little line here just to emphasize that she has those collarbones there. That's an option, and you don't have to do that if you don't want to. Let's go ahead and get started with the eyebrows. Remember, we want the eyebrows close to where it is the bridge of the nose to be a little bit thicker, so I draw that straight line, rainbow curve, rainbow curve. Straight line, rainbow curve, and rainbow curve. Now for the eyes, I'm going to draw that curve, goes down, curve and bring it to like a circle, curve down almost like a circle. Backward C, backward C, circle, circle, and another circle behind that highlight. Now this time we're going to add those eyelids by drawing a rainbow over the eyes. And then for those eyelashes, we're just going to draw them, but I'm not going to fill them in quite yet. I'm actually going to add just a few here as well. You can add as many eyelashes as you'd like or a few, that is up to you. I'm going to add a nice line here for that bridge of the nose. And then I'm going to bring this curve out and down, slight nostril. And then because that lip is slanted on the side because her head is turned, I'm going to draw that slanted line. Start on the left, curve up, down, 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 up, over. Curve to connect to the bottom of that slanted line. And curve back up. And there we have Princess Belle. If you want to add anything to the background, you are more than welcome to do so. However, I'm going to leave it like this for now, and I will be adding roses later with my markers. Now, if you are still working on your picture, no worries, you just keep going. You can always press pause on the video. But if you are done, your picture is going to look something like this. Now, the first thing I'm going to do actually is put my pencil away. I'm going to keep my eraser out just in case I need it. And I'm going to be using my Sharpie to first outline the top of my eyes, where those eyelashes are. And then I'm going to fill in those eyelashes by drawing them first and fill it in. Outline, fill it in, outline, fill it in. Outline, fill it in, outline, fill it in, outline, fill it in. I also need to fill in that pupil by outlining. Make sure you're avoiding the small circle. And filling that in. Outline. And filling it in. But that is all I am going to be doing with my black Sharpie. Instead, I am going to now be switching to a brown Sharpie, and I am going to outline the rest of her except for her lips in brown Sharpie. So first, I'm going to outline the bottom of her eye. Goes around and around here. Get the bridge of the nose. Also going to outline her eyes. I'm also going to fill in her eyebrows by first outlining and then filling them in. Then I'm going to work on her nose, but I'm not going to outline her lips. I am, however, going to outline the rest of her because even though she is wearing a yellow dress, we still want to show those lines by using brown. Because if we were to outline in yellow, those lines would start to get lost. Just take your time to outline that picture. There is no rush. Also, If you're using the same type of Sharpie that I am, you should have a fine point on the other side. You can add that eyelid by tracing over it. So now that I have finished outlining those eyelids, I'm going to finish the rest of my picture. Don't forget her forehead and her jawline. And even those lines in her hair as well. And her dress. All right, I did go over some pencil lines. I can still see some of them though, so I'm just going to take that moment to erase any of those pencil lines I no longer need in my picture. So especially on that hair, I did make some adjustments as I was outlining, so I do need to make sure I don't see any of those pencil lines needed anymore. Now, I'm going to be taking a sort of dark pink to outline my lips. Now, Belle has some nice soft pink lips, but I'm going to be using a darker one just to outline. And there we have Belle. I'm going to put these Sharpies away. And now I'm going to be moving on to coloring first her hair. It is the largest area, so I do want to get that taken care of. And sometimes I find it easier to turn the paper around just so I can really get to those areas. I've got my brown Mr. Sketch marker. I'm going to outline and fill in where her hair is. Don't fill in this area because that is the barrette that is holding up her hair. So I'm outlining and filling it in. All right, so there's the first section. I'm now going to work on the rest of her hair. And I still like to work in sections. So I'll outline what I can, getting as close as I can to my lines and filling it in. All right, going to fill in this next section. And this section here. And I still like to use those nice long strokes, top to bottom, just to make sure that I get all those areas needed. And I'm getting as close as I can to my lines. And still using those long strokes. almost done with the top part of her hair. Still need to work on the bottom part. If you are still working on any part of her hair, or maybe you're still outlining her face and dress in your brown Sharpie, you can go ahead and press pause on the video. Now that that top part is done, I'm going to finish the rest of her hair. Make sure to avoid coloring on her shoulders as well as any part of her face. So I recommend outlining first. Just make sure you are avoiding those areas and then filling it in. All right, and you should still be able to see those brown Sharpie lines that we added earlier. And then this side as well. All right, I am almost done with my hair. All right, there we go. The next color I'm going to be using is yellow for her earrings, the barrette in her hair, and her dress. Now I like to work from top to bottom, so I'm going to start with the barrette first. Be careful because that hair may still be wet from the marker. I'm just going to fill in that area. And then her earring. And her dress. And I am still outlining, even though I am at the bottom of my paper. Outline and fill it in. All right, and that's all I am going to be doing for my marker step right now. We are going to be switching gears to our colored pencils. So here are my colored pencils. Now the reason why I'm using colored pencils instead of markers for this next step is because Belle has these nice golden hazel eyes. Now hazel is one of those colors that can be hazel green, hazel brown, hazel gold. Belle's are this nice gold color, which unfortunately is kind of hard to find a marker in that color. So we're going to be creating a color for her eyes. So I'm going to get some dark ochre. And I'm just going to fill in her eyes. But I will be adding some browns in a bit. So I'm just going to take that moment to fill in her eyes. And same with the other side. So now we have this gold, however it does still look a little bit faint. So if you do need to go over and add another layer of that dark ochre, you can go ahead and do so. But I am actually going to be taking some of my light brown and I'm just going to go around the edges where I didn't Sharpie. Just to really get the dark color in there. You can also outline around your highlighted area. So really just take that moment to take care of those eyes. And if you need to go back over with Sharpie to fix anything, you can go ahead and do so. So I'm actually going to fix the size of this pupil here. Only if you need to, though. Just to make it look more like she is looking right at us. There we go. So just going to take my light brown again and just add some of those areas that need that extra brown. All right, I'm going to put that away. Now I'm going to be coloring her lips. I've got this nice pink color. I will go over with a darker pink in just a moment. I'm just making sure to get all those areas. If you want to be a little bit more advanced, you can easily take some baby oil on a Q-tip and blend that colored pencil together. But today, I'm trying my best to get all those white spots and really blend with my colors together. So there's my pink. I'm gonna get a bit of my darker pink and just get the corners of her mouth a little bit darker. And I'll just go over and make it just a tad bit darker. All right. Now I like to take some gray and I like to add it to the corners where her teeth would be, just to make sure they're not super flat in color, that those teeth do have dimension. Also the same with the eyes. I like to add a little bit of gray to the top of the eyeball. All right, now I'm going to put my colored pencils aside for now and shift gears to my chalk pastels. And I'm also going to be grabbing a paper towel. What we're first going to do is, let's grab our eraser. If we do see any of those pencil lines, take care of those because we don't need to see those any longer. All right, so now that I have taken care of that, I am going to get my tan, and I'm just going to pinch and pull on her face and neck. Be careful to not go over her eyes or lips. You worked so hard on coloring that area. After I take some tan, I am going to get just a little bit of this peach and go over that as well, because we're mixing colors here. Then I'm going to take my two fingers or one and blend. Again, be careful as you are blending onto her face. We don't want to get any of that on her eyes or mouth. But if you do get some on her eyes or mouth, that's okay. You can easily take your eraser and erase those areas. So I'm just blending that face. Now I'm going to be adding some shading. After I've made sure to blend her face as best as I can, I'm going to get my paper towel and I'm going to get the lighter brown. I'm going to add some shading. Ooh, that's a little bit too light. Let me go for the darker brown. Get that darker brown and add it to the left side of her neck. And I'm also going to take that darker brown and add it just above the eyelids. I'll bring it along the crease right there. We're just adding that little extra bit of shading. and also a little bit underneath her nose as well. Also, where that collarbone is, I'm going to add some shading as well. All right. Now I do want those nice rosy cheeks. I'm going to make sure to go for this kind of this fuchsia pink, but be very careful because it is a bright, bold color. Don't want too much, so I'm just going to get a little bit and go in circular motions to add that blush. If you need a little bit more, you can take some more, but I recommend doing this with a paper towel just so you're really soft with it. All right, I think I'm going to add a little bit more shading to the bridge of that nose. But since I did get a little bit of brown on her eyes, where the highlight is, I'm going to make sure those are cleared up. Now, I'm going to get my darkest brown in my chalk pastel kit. I'm going to follow along these lines just to add that shading. And along here too. And here as well. And we'll also go underneath here. Because this is a dark color, I highly recommend you be extra careful. In fact, I would get a paper towel for this step and just go along those lines, following that, those lines that you created. So don't be blending back and forth, just follow that trail. Now, if you find that maybe it's just a little bit too dark, or maybe your brown was running out of ink, or maybe it just seems a little bit too light, no worries, you can easily take your brown and go right over your hair. So I'm just going over my hair to make sure everything's nicely blended. I'm going to take that paper towel and blend. But be careful as you are going over her skin. Don't want to make it too blotchy. And especially that background too. All right. I'm also going to be adding some highlights with my tan. So I'm going to get my tan out. I'm going to run that tan along the opposite sides of the darker areas. Take my paper towel, or you can just take your finger. I'm going to use my finger for today and just blend. Not making sure not to go back and forth. I'm just following those lines. And then you can tap your paper. If you need to go back and do a little bit more blending, you can. You can easily take your paper towel, take off some of that color. I don't want too much of the tan. Now, if you get some of that chalk dust onto your background, that's okay. You can take your eraser and erase it right off. I just recommend doing this very carefully, and you can tap your paper on the table, but it doesn't really take off too much of those eraser shavings, so I would just take a clean part of your paper towel and brush it right off. I'm actually going to put my chalk pastels away because we're going to be moving on to watercolors next. With my watercolors, switch colors right here, You can choose any color you want for your background. I'm only going to be taking that color to right about here because I'm going to be adding some roses, but I do want to make sure that my picture has time to dry. So I'm going to be taking my yellow, this nice fresh yellow, and I am going to be painting my background all the way to about where her cheeks and the earrings are. So I'll just add that yellow. I'm going to go around my picture. Now normally I would add those roses first. However, I do want to give my background some time to dry before I do some extra added details. So I'm going to be doing the background painting first. Now sometimes it's hard to get that nice, really lemony yellow, so you may need to add some extra layers. So I'm just going to keep going with that color. All right, I'm going to leave that alone for now. Actually going to be just putting my watercolors here because now I am going to be taking my bright and bold Crayola markers and I am going to be drawing some roses. I'm going to take my red, scratch that. I'll come back to that red. I am actually going to be taking my Sharpies because the reason why I'm going to be taking my Sharpies is because they are waterproof, because we are going to be using water over our markers. But I do want to draw those roses with my Sharpie. Now roses come in all sorts of different shapes. Those petals that you're drawing don't have to be too exact. I just like to do some jagged lines that go in a particular circle. Some of those jagged lines can get close together, or you can make them go to a point because those petals are coming out. But there is no right or wrong way to draw those roses. So again, I'm just going in a circular motion, making them jagged, some close, some not, just to add those petals. And some of Belle is blocking those petals. Again, you don't have to be too exact on these flowers. If we go into too much detail, Belle would get lost in that picture. So we're making sure that she is the main focus of our picture. If you want to add some leaves, you can switch to your green and add some leaves as well. Now, once I've added those rose outlines and leaf outlines, I can then go to my pink and red and add those details. So I'm going to just first take my pink and fill in some parts of my rose. In fact, you can just actually at this point scribble scrabble. Doesn't have to be super exact. Now I'm using the side of my marker. Some of those areas I'm leaving white because we will be using watercolor to paint right on top of them. So now that I've got the pink done, I'm going to switch to my red. Just go in some of those areas that maybe there would be some shading. Again, you don't have to be too accurate on this because this is just a nice simple background for Belle. And as for those leaves, I'm going to be using a green Crayola marker and adding that. All right, and there's that for the markers. We will then continue on with our watercolors. So now I'm just going to put those markers away and stick with my watercolors. This time I am just going to get my medium brush, and with my red violet, just a little bit, I'm going to go over those roses. Now the nice thing about Crayola is that you can blend them with water to make those colors spread. But I am just using a little bit of that red violet to make sure there is no white from the paper. And I'll go back over in those areas with yellow as well to make sure that it is nicely blended. You can even take some red watercolor if you'd like. We're just using that nice variety of colors. And if you find that maybe that watercolor and the Crayola marker isn't blending as well as you'd like, no worries, you can just easily take some red or some red violet and add more color. So again, I'm using a variety of red violet and red. And for the green leaves, I would just use green. So that way I can still have some of that shading in my flower bed. Alright, my roses are just about done. If you're still working on painting any of those areas, go ahead and just take your time. You can always press pause on the video. But I am going to just touch up on the yellow with my background. Alright, so adding more of that yellow, getting as close as I can to my roses. Now while I am waiting for that background to dry just a little bit more, I'm actually going to just clean up my area, and I'm going to be taking out my glitter glue and my gems. So I will need my bucket for a bit. I'll put my watercolors away. I am going to take out my glitter glue and my gems. I'll do the glitter glue first. Now this is an optional step. You don't have to do this in your picture, but I find it makes it look a little bit more creative and fun. Just make sure you do get off any of that chalk dust from your paper. The first thing I'm going to do is I am going to be taking my gold, and I'm just going to add a bit of a line on the headband and the earrings. I'm going to take my brush. I'm going to take a small one, and I'm just going to spread that glitter around. And same with that headband. Now, if you leave that glue in a certain area for too long, it will pick up that marker color. Depending on what brand of marker you are using, it tends to be fine with the Mr. Sketch, but with Crayola, it does try to pick up some of that color. And I'm also going to be adding some gold glitter to those sleeves. So I'll add a line here and here. And then I'm going to take my small brush and make sure to spread that around. Now maybe a little bit hard to see, but I am spreading that glitter. If you need to scrape it off of your brush, you can do that as well. So you should be able to start seeing that glitter on your paper. So I'll hold it up a little bit closer so you can see the earring and the headband. I'm going to clean off that gold glitter because I am now going to add just a little bit of pink to those lips. So I've got this nice magenta. I'm very carefully just going to add, very carefully, I am going to add just a little bit of that pink. In fact, I'm going to try and scoop that up. It came out a little bit too fast. And I'm going to dab that pink onto the lips. Also, I am going to be taking this color. Luckily, I have enough. I'm just going to go over my roses. Now, I like to use less is more in my opinion, but if you wanted to make like long trails of glitter glue, it does take longer to dry. In fact, it seems to take almost like half a day for it to dry. So this is why I like to just get my glitter glue and spread it like this. And I'm just tapping to make sure that all spreads around. And I'll clean my brush because I no longer need that magenta glitter. Now, what I am going to be doing for the background is I'm going to be adding some stars. But how I am going to be doing this is I'm going to get my copper or bronze. And how I'm going to do this is I am going to add a dot. I then take my skinny brush and I just move that color up and down and the sides to create what looks like a star. And I go on the sides as well. If you need a tap where you can push it down a little bit more. But I like to add that nice little bit of sparkle to the background, just so it doesn't look a little bit too plain. Add a little bit more to this side here, but I do need some more to the dot. And I just gently tap to create that sparkle. And you can add a little bit of sparkles here and there too if you would like. All right, now one of my favorites is to add those gems to the drawing. So I'll put my glitter glue away. I'm going to be taking out my gems. All right, I've got some yellow gems here. Sometimes it's easier to use tweezers for the really small ones. I'm just going to try my best to get those yellows. And very carefully, I'm going to put it on the headband. It's still wet from that glitter glue, so be extra careful as you do this step if you are adding those gems to your picture. But I'm just adding them to the headband. I also have some pink gems that I can add to the roses in the background. And again, if they're really small, just be careful. I have a pink one that's stuck on my finger that I can use for those flowers. I'm going to add one more to my headband. And I'm just going to add some pink ones to my flowers. You can even add some red if you'd like to. That is up to you. But I'm just adding those pink gems on my picture. Again, this is up to you. This is totally an optional step. You can add more gems. You can add not a whole lot. You can even go to a bigger size. So I've got a few bigger ones here. And I can add larger ones to my picture as well. It's nice to have that good variety for your picture. But overall, have fun with decorating your picture because the possibilities are endless. Just make sure when you are done with your picture that you put everything nice and neatly away and clean up your area. And that is it for Princess Belle from Beauty and the Beast. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you had a lot of fun learning how to draw Belle from Beauty and the Beast. And we will see you next time. Please post your pictures online. We would love to see them. Bye.